Title: I lost my winning lottery ticket. A stranger found it and tracked me down to return it. I lost a lottery ticket worth $2 million. A stranger found it crumpled in a grocery store parking lot. She could have cashed it and disappeared forever. Instead, she spent 3 weeks trying to find me. What she said when she finally found me changed my life. I never expected to fall for the woman who saved my future. But she was hiding a secret of her own. A secret that would test everything we were building together. My name is Casey Whitfield, 29 years old, waitressing double shifts at a diner outside Columbus, Ohio. Barely making rent every month. I bought that lottery ticket on a whim after a brutal 12-hour shift, tucked it into my jacket pocket, and forgot about it completely. 3 days later I realized the ticket was gone, and panic swallowed me whole as I retraced every step of my day. I searched my car, my apartment, even the diner's dumpster, but the ticket had vanished without a trace. I checked the winning numbers online out of habit, my hands shaking as I matched them one by one against my memory. Every single number matched, and I nearly threw up realizing I had lost a fortune somewhere between the register and my front door. I posted online begging whoever found it to come forward, offering a reward, praying someone honest existed in this world. Days passed with no response, and I convinced myself the ticket was gone, tossed in someone's trash, worthless to anyone but me. Then a message arrived from someone named Sloan Reyes, asking to meet in person before saying anything more. My stomach dropped with hope and fear tangled together as I typed back, agreeing to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. She walked in wearing a paint-stained flannel, dark curly hair pulled back, eyes scanning the room like she was nervous too. She slid an envelope across the table without a word, and inside was my ticket, untouched, exactly where I had left it folded. I asked why she didn't just cash it herself, and she shrugged like the answer was obvious, saying it was never hers to take. I offered her the reward money immediately, but she refused, saying she only wanted to make sure it reached the right person. We ended up talking for 2 hours that night, long after our coffee went cold, laughing about nothing and everything at once. She was an art teacher at a community center, painting murals on weekends, living simply in a rented studio above a hardware store. I found myself staring at her hands while she talked, the paint stains under her nails, the way she gestured when excited. Before we parted ways, she wrote her number on a napkin and told me to call if I ever needed anything at all. Called 2 days later, using the excuse of thanking her properly, though I knew that wasn't the real reason. We met for dinner at a small Italian place, and I noticed how she remembered every small detail I had mentioned before. She asked about my dreams, not just my job. And nobody had asked me that question in years, not even my own family. I told her I wanted to open a small bakery someday, something warm and mine, and she looked at me like she believed it. She told me about her mother's death when she was 17, how painting became the only language grief let her speak. I reached across the table and held her hand without thinking, and she didn't pull away, just looked at me softly instead. Walking her home that night, the city lights blurred around us, and I felt something shift quietly inside my chest. At her door she hesitated, then said she hadn't felt this comfortable with anyone in a very long time. I kissed her cheek goodnight, my heart pounding louder than the traffic behind us on that quiet street. We started seeing each other every week. Museum visits, cheap diners, long walks through parks neither of us had explored before. She showed me the mural she was painting for the community center, a wall of overlapping hands reaching toward the sun. I realized I was falling for her the night she fell asleep on my shoulder during a movie neither of us finished. She started leaving little notes tucked into my apron pocket before my shifts, silly doodles that made my whole day brighter. One evening she finally kissed me first, standing in the rain outside my apartment building, both of us soaked and laughing. I pulled her inside, and for the first time in years I felt entirely, terrifyingly certain about someone. We told each other things we had never said aloud before. Fears about failure, about being truly seen by another person. She admitted she had been engaged once. To a man. Before realizing she couldn't keep pretending to be someone she wasn't. I told her about my own confusion in college. Dating men because it felt safer than facing what I actually wanted. Being with her felt like exhaling after holding my breath for years without even realizing I had been holding it. My best friend Priya noticed the change in me immediately, teasing that I smiled at my phone like a lovesick teenager. I introduced Sloan to Priya over brunch, and they got along instantly, trading jokes like old friends within minutes. Sloan started coming to the diner during my shifts, sitting quietly with a sketchbook, drawing the regulars while she waited. My manager Diane noticed too, winking at me knowingly whenever Sloan walked through the door with paint on her sleeves. We spent a whole Saturday deciding how to use the lottery winnings, dreaming out loud about the bakery I always wanted. Sloan suggested painting a mural on the bakery's future wall, something bright to welcome customers before they even stepped inside. I realized I trusted her completely, not because of the money, but because she never once mentioned it after that first day. We celebrated 3 months together with a small dinner she cooked herself, badly burning the pasta but somehow making it perfect. She gave me a small painting of a lottery ticket turning into a flower, framed simply, hanging now above my bed. I started imagining a future that included her permanently, something I hadn't let myself imagine with anyone in years. My mother called asking about the winnings, and I mentioned Sloan casually, testing the waters before revealing anything deeper. There was a pause on the line. Then my mother changed the subject quickly, and something cold settled in my stomach. I decided to wait before telling my family the full truth, worried about how they might actually react to it. Sloan sensed my hesitation but never pushed, simply saying she would wait as long as I needed her to. That patience made me love her even more, though it also planted a quiet guilt I couldn't quite shake off. My older brother Danny came to visit unexpectedly, and I introduced Sloan as my roommate instead of the truth. Sloan's face flickered with hurt for a split second before she smiled and played along for the rest of the evening. After Danny left, she asked quietly why I hadn't just told him the truth, and I had no good answer. I admitted I was scared of losing my family the way some of our friends had lost theirs after coming out. She said she understood fear, but hiding her like a secret still hurt, no matter how good the reason sounded. We had our first real argument that night, both of us raising voices we rarely used with each other before. She left my apartment upset, and I sat alone replaying every excuse I had made to avoid the truth. 2 days of silence passed between us, the longest we had gone without talking since the day we met. I finally called my mother and told her everything, my voice shaking through every single word I said. My mother's response was cold, asking if this was some phase brought on by sudden, unexpected wealth. I felt anger rise inside me, defending Sloan and our relationship as something real, not a passing confusion. My mother said my father would never accept it, and threatened to keep the news from him entirely. I hung up feeling hollow, wondering if honesty had cost me more than my silence ever had. I showed up at Sloan's studio that night, apologizing for hiding her, admitting how scared I truly was. She hugged me tightly, saying fear was understandable, but she needed to know I wasn't ashamed of her. We talked until sunrise, rebuilding trust piece by piece, promising honesty even when honesty felt impossibly hard. A week later, my father called directly, his voice tight, asking if the rumors from my mother were true. I confirmed everything, bracing myself for rejection, but instead heard only silence stretching long across the line. He finally said he needed time, then hung up without another word, leaving me uncertain about everything. Sloan held me that night while I cried, whispering that whatever happened, she wasn't going anywhere. My coworker Marcus overheard a private conversation about Sloan and started spreading rumors around the diner. Customers began treating me differently, whispering, some leaving without tipping, others staring a little too long. Diane pulled me aside, saying corporate had received a complaint and wanted to discuss my conduct at work. Panic terrified of losing the only steady income one had before the lottery money even arrived. Sloan offered to cover my expenses until things settled, but pride kept me from accepting her help. I discovered Marcus had also been stealing tips for months, using rumors about me as a convenient distraction. I reported him with evidence Priya helped me gather, and he was fired within the same week. Diane apologized, admitting corporate's concern was unfounded, and my job remained safely secure after everything settled. Meanwhile, my father requested a private meeting, choosing neutral ground at a small park near my apartment. He arrived looking older than I remembered, hands trembling slightly as he sat across from me. He admitted he didn't understand everything, but he refused to lose his daughter over understanding alone. Tears filled my eyes as he asked, quietly, if he could someday meet the woman I loved. I called Sloan immediately, and she agreed to meet him, though I could hear the fear in her voice. The dinner was awkward at first, silence stretching between polite questions about weather and work and traffic. Slowly, my father asked Sloan about her painting, and something in his posture began to visibly soften. By dessert, they were discussing color theory, and I sat there stunned, watching walls quietly come down. My mother still refused contact, insisting this was embarrassing her among friends at church every single week. Sloan told me not to force it, that some people needed longer roads toward acceptance and peace. I respected her wisdom, though the distance from my mother still ached somewhere deep inside my chest. With the reward and part of the winnings, we officially signed a lease for the bakery space downtown. Sloan began sketching mural designs immediately, staying up late refining every curve and color by hand. We named it Second Chance Bakery, a quiet tribute to the ticket that brought us together originally. Renovations began fast, both of us covered in sawdust and paint most weekends for over a month. I felt closer to her during those messy, exhausting hours than during any perfectly planned date before. A local reporter heard our story and requested an interview about the lottery ticket and the bakery. Sloan hesitated, worried publicity might expose details about her past she still wasn't ready to share. I agreed to the interview alone, protecting her privacy while still telling the honest, hopeful parts of our story. The article went viral locally, calling us proof that honesty still existed somewhere in this tired world. With attention came scrutiny, and someone from Sloan's past recognized her name within the published article online. A woman named Renata messaged Sloan, claiming to be her former fiancé from years before we ever met. Sloan grew distant after that message, staying quiet during dinner, avoiding my questions about what was wrong. Pressed gently, and she finally admitted Renata had left her for a wealthier man years earlier. She confessed watching me suddenly gain money terrified her. Worried history was somehow repeating itself all over again. I felt hurt she compared me to someone who abandoned her, though I understood the fear underneath it. We argued again, harder this time, both exhausted from months of hiding, fighting, and constant explaining ourselves. She said maybe the bakery, the money. Everything moved too fast for something that started so simply. I accused her of pushing me away before I could ever have the chance to hurt her first. She left that night, saying she needed space to think clearly without my presence clouding her judgment. Days passed in painful silence, the bakery renovation stalling as neither of us showed up to work. Priya reminded me that love worth keeping required patience, not ultimatums thrown during moments of raw fear. I sent Sloan a single message, saying I would wait, just like she once waited patiently for me. A week later, Renata showed up unannounced at Sloan's studio, hoping to rekindle something long since ended. Sloan firmly turned her away, realizing clearly that the life she wanted now included only me. She showed up at my apartment soaked from rain again, echoing our very first kiss months earlier. She apologized for letting old wounds distort the trust we had worked so carefully to build together. I forgave her instantly, understanding fear could make even strong people doubt something genuinely good and real. We returned to the bakery together the next morning, finishing the mural exactly as originally planned. My mother, hearing about our public story, unexpectedly appeared at the bakery's half-finished entrance one afternoon. She stood silently studying the mural of hands reaching toward light, tears forming without her permission. She admitted she was afraid of judgment from others, more than she was afraid of Sloan herself. I told her fear wasn't a reason good enough to lose the daughter standing right in front of her. She hugged me tightly, the first real embrace we had shared since the day I came out to her. Slowly, cautiously, she began speaking to Sloan, asking about the mural's meaning behind every painted detail. It wasn't perfect reconciliation, but it was a beginning. Fragile and real. Exactly like everything worthwhile always is. The bakery's grand opening date was set. Invitations sent to family, friends, and the entire neighborhood nearby. Sloan and I worked side by side every night, perfecting recipes I had dreamed about for years. 2 nights before opening, an investor named Bradley Finn approached us with an offer to buy the concept. He offered triple our investment, promising expansion into multiple cities within just a couple of years. Sloan immediately said no, but I hesitated, imagining security we had never truly known before this moment. That hesitation created tension again, Sloan questioning whether money still held more power than our shared dream. I sat alone that night, weighing security against everything we had personally built with our own 2 hands. I realized Bradley's offer would erase the soul of what we created, turning something personal into something corporate. I called him the next morning and firmly declined, choosing meaning over guaranteed, impersonal financial safety instead. Sloan cried with relief when I told her, saying she was terrified I might choose differently. Promised her, firmly, that no amount of money would ever outweigh what we had built together. Opening day arrived. Sunlight pouring through freshly painted windows, the smell of fresh bread filling the street outside. My father showed up early, helping arrange chairs, proudly telling strangers his daughter owned this bakery. My mother arrived quietly, holding a small bouquet, standing awkwardly near the door before finally stepping inside. Danny arrived with his wife and kids, snapping photos, genuinely proud despite his earlier discomfort months before. Priya cried happy tears near the register, calling this the proudest moment she had witnessed in years. The line stretched down the block, customers curious about the bakery behind the viral lottery story online. Reporters returned for follow-up coverage, this time focused entirely on the bakery rather than our private life. Sloan stood proudly beside her finished mural, watching strangers stop to admire the painted, reaching hands. Midway through the celebration, Renata appeared again, standing uncertainly near the entrance, clearly not there to cause trouble. She approached Sloan privately, offering a sincere apology for the pain caused years earlier by her choices. Sloan accepted the apology calmly, saying she had finally found peace with everything that happened between them. Renata left quietly afterward, and Sloan returned to me with visible relief written across her entire face. That evening, after the crowd disappeared, we sat alone among empty chairs, exhausted but completely, deeply happy. I told her the ticket felt less like luck now, and more like fate finally finding its way. She laughed, reminding me luck still played its part, since she almost tossed that ticket away unread. I asked what stopped her, and she said something about the crumpled paper felt important, worth protecting. We sat in comfortable silence, watching streetlights flicker on outside the windows of our very own bakery. My mother returned the following week, alone, asking to help decorate cupcakes for an upcoming church fundraiser. It was small, imperfect progress, but progress nonetheless, built slowly through shared flower-covered afternoons together. Sloan's mural began attracting local artists, some requesting collaborations on murals throughout other parts of the neighborhood. Her small painting hobby slowly transformed into a legitimate, thriving business alongside our growing bakery together. We hired Priya part-time, needing extra hands as the bakery's popularity continued growing week after week. Business boomed steadily, Not from lottery luck anymore, but from genuine hard work and honest recipes. One quiet evening, Sloan suggested we finally take a real vacation, somewhere neither of us had visited before. We chose the Oregon coast, driving for hours, windows down, singing loudly to songs neither of us knew well. Standing on that cold, windy beach, she suddenly turned serious, pulling something small from her jacket pocket. My heart stopped as she knelt slightly, waves crashing loudly behind her, holding a simple silver ring. She said finding that lottery ticket was never really about the money, but about finding me instead. Tears blurred my vision as I said yes before she even finished asking the full question aloud. We called our families immediately, laughter and tears mixing together across 3 different noisy phone lines. Even my mother, hesitant as ever, offered quiet congratulations, promising to help plan the wedding details. Danny joked about walking me down the aisle, already planning an embarrassing speech for our reception. Priya declared herself maid of honor before anyone else even had the chance to ask her formally. Back home, we hung the framed lottery ticket painting beside our engagement photo above the bakery counter. Customers often asked about the story, and we happily retold it, watching strangers smile at the ending. Renata occasionally visited the bakery now, buying bread quietly, nodding politely whenever our paths happened to cross. Bradley Finn eventually opened his own bakery chain nearby, though customers always said ours simply tasted better. My father framed a newspaper clipping about us, hanging it proudly inside his own small workshop garage. We planned a small wedding. Nothing extravagant, just close family, warm bread, and Sloane's painted decorations everywhere. The night before the wedding, I found the original napkin where she first wrote her phone number. I framed it quietly, placing it beside our other treasured memories lining the bakery's back office wall. Standing at the altar the next day, I watched Sloane walk toward me, glowing under soft afternoon light. My mother sat in the front row, crying openly, finally, completely present for this important moment. We exchanged vows we had written ourselves, promising honesty always, even when honesty felt frightening or hard. Danny gave his speech, joking about roommates and napkins, making the entire reception erupt into loud laughter. That night, dancing slowly beneath string lights, I realized losing that ticket was the luckiest moment ever, because losing it led me straight to the person who found not just paper, but purpose itself. Years later, our bakery expanded into a second location, its walls covered in Sloane's growing collection of murals. We mentored young couples occasionally, sharing our story with anyone nervous about choosing love over easy comfort. My mother now proudly tells the story herself, calling Sloane the daughter she almost missed knowing entirely. Renata eventually married someone new, sending us a kind, genuine card wishing us continued lasting happiness. Priya became a permanent manager, running the second location while raising her own young growing family. Some nights, Sloane and I sit quietly above the bakery, remembering that rainy first kiss outside my door. We still keep that original ticket, worthless now for cashing, but priceless for everything it truly started. Every anniversary, we return to that same parking lot, leaving a single flower where she first found it. Love, I learn, isn't about what you win, but about who chooses to return what matters most. And Sloane chose me, again and again, long after the money stopped meaning anything at all. Fendi.